Okay. I got my water.
In from the foyer, have a seat and listen to the musical stylings of the Nortons.
Hello, what?
Musical stylings.
Yeah, okay. Some of you are going to be slightly familiar with the melody of this. Warning, I've changed the words to be you appropriate.
Fields and scattered the good seed on the
all this earth imparts, but that which
our grateful thanks and give our love.
Good morning. As we begin, please turn off electronic devices. I invite you to enjoy the chapel in the back of the sanctuary and note joys and concerns in the book there. If you have little ones, we have a nursery downstairs, and after our service, I invite you all downstairs to enjoy hospitality and to greet one another. Finally, please note the announcements in your order of service with many ways to be engaged in this vibrant community.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jan Vanderhook, and I'm a member of the board and co-president with Mac Lund, who's here with us today, here at South Valley. We are a covenantal rather than a creedal church. That means that from the pulpit we want words spoken personally and sincerely, but we have no beliefs or creeds. Instead, using our 7 principles to guide us, members covenant with each other, mutual support. So in this same spirit, I give our traditional Sunday service greeting to all who enter here. Come, come, whoever you are. You are welcome here, no matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin. You are welcome here. No matter who you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you come with laughter in your hearts or tears. You are welcome here. Not just your willing hands, your loving heart, or your open mind, but you, the complete you, exactly as you are. You are welcome here. Now I have to switch to my worship hat. About a week ago, I struggled in getting people to help with today's service because of the many time and other conflicts which seemed to spring up about last week. However, the people who are helping today were particularly kind and helpful to me. From David and Mary Norton, doing special music, to Paula Eichbauer, who prepared the altar. From Shannon and Lisi helping with the hymns, to all the individual speaking participants. I'm grateful to them in this community. If I believed in God, I might even think my experience in putting this service together was God's object lesson to make me more thankful. So this morning, I found an article in Psychology Today, April 3rd, 2015, where they give 7 scientifically proven benefits for being grateful. If you'd like, you can look up the specific article and verify the studies. These are the results. Gratitude opens the door to more relationships. Showing appreciation can help you win new friends. Acknowledging other people's contributions can lead to new opportunities. Number 2, gratitude improves health. Grateful people experience fewer aches and pains and report feeling healthier than other people. Grateful people are also more likely to take care of their health by exercising more often, and attending regular checkups, medical checkups. Number 3, gratitude psychological health. Gratitude reduces a multitude of toxic emotions, from envy and resentment to frustration and regret. Gratitude effectively increases happiness and reduces depression. Number 4, grateful people are more likely to behave in a pro-social manner, even when others behave less kindly. They experience more sensitivity and empathy toward other people and have a decreased desire to seek revenge. Grateful people sleep better. Spend just 15 minutes jotting down a few grateful sentiments before bed, and you may sleep better and longer. Number 6, gratitude improves self-esteem. Rather than becoming resentful toward people who have more money or better jobs, a major factor in reduced self-esteem, grateful people are able to appreciate other people's accomplishments. And finally, number 7, gratitude increases mental strength. Recognizing all that you have to be thankful for, even during the worst times, fosters resilience. So, let's get on with the service. Please open your hymnals to page number 68 and sing, "Come Ye Thankful People." Would you all please rise in body or spirit? Will children please come forward for this sound experience? What did you say? And anybody who wants to come forward. And you people in the last 5-6 rows, You don't get to even have a hymnal. When the children go down, feel free to come up nice and close. In fact, you can come up closely now, and then you can have a hymnal to use for the responsive reading, which happens right after this. Now, I personally am grateful for music, sound, and science. In fact, that's why I have this t-shirt on. My wife said, "Why are you wearing that ratty t-shirt?" It says, "Science, mess with it." Anyway, I've asked Shawnee to be at the piano for me. Go ahead. And I'm going to ask her to play an E, G sharp, and B, any key is fine. But one at a time. And now all three. Cool, cool. Doesn't that sound great? Why does that sound great? Well, I have to go back to what sound is. Sound is vibrations that we can hear. We can hear from 20 vibrations per second, that's really, really low, to 20,000 vibrations a second. How many vibrations a second am I doing? It's not 20, is it? That's why you can't hear it. I'm going to make it worse. What do you think? Am I going to be able to vibrate this faster? Or am I going to go slower? How do you think I'm going to go faster with the 15-pound weight? How do you think I'm going to go slower? Let's try it. Oh! So heavier things vibrate slower. Well, we have a guitar over here, and feel free to stand up and take a closer look at the guitar. Go ahead, stand up and get closer. That's over there by David. Thank you very much there. Would you point to the fattest string? Lou?
I think it's this one.
Point all the whole length so people can see where. Oh, is that one on top, huh?
Yeah.
And what's so would that be the heaviest string, you think?
It's the baddest.
It's the baddest, so it'd be the heaviest or most massive. And so it would go, well, hold it. Which is the skinniest string or the lightest string?
I think it's this one.
The one on the bottom?
Yeah.
Hey, would you play both of those and let's see? Now hold it. Before he does that, how many think that the fat string is going to be higher? How many think the fat string is going to be lower? Okay, go ahead now. Now the skinny one. Oh my gosh. By the way, those are both E strings, and the one was called 2 octaves higher. Do you know what that means? That means it's vibrating not twice as fast, but 4 times as fast as the heavy string that it has there. Okay. Hey, could you do me a favor and put a couple of fingerings on that low E string and see if it goes higher or lower? And just regular finger. And a little higher. How come it goes higher when he puts his finger down? Yeah, go ahead. There's less string that needs to vibrate, so it vibrates, everybody. Faster. Excellent, of course. Yay. Have you had this lesson before? No! Oh my gosh. So, higher pitches have less. David, would you mind tuning one of the strings? I don't care which string you tune. Make it looser. Pick a string and play it first. And now make it looser. Now play it again. Oh, when it's looser, more string goes into that middle part, And so it's heavier again. Here, now take it back up again where it's supposed to be. So, in summary, smaller strings vibrate faster, tightened strings vibrate faster, and fingered strings vibrate faster and all have less mass to vibrate. Now, is this science?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think science is. Okay, now we're going to play a special trick. He's going to play the E, the low E there. And then he's going to, by the way, that low E that nobody can sing except for I can now because I have a cold. Good job, John. Okay. And I have a cold, I can sing lower than John. That's because my cold makes my vocal folds swell. And so there's more mass to them, and so they go slower. Okay? Harder to get that. But anyway, that's called the fundamental. Now I'm going to ask him to just touch the middle of the string, either before or after he plucks it. He knows how to do this, so go ahead. Do that again. That sounded to me like the something like that. Now put your finger on it first. Okay. That's when he plucks the string, we call it the timbre of the note. Now timbre just means all the frequencies at the same time. Could you hear that when he plucked that low note that it had that high note in it? Yeah. Hey, everybody close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. And now I want the piano to play the same note. Piano, go ahead. Yeah. No. Okay. Now, with your eyes closed, I'm going to point to somebody to play. You tell me whether it's a guitar or piano. How many say that's the piano? How many say it's the guitar?
Yeah.
How do you know? Hold it, let's do it again. Let's do it again. See, make sure this experiment works. That's number one. Now number two. What was number two? Everybody, piano, you can open your eyes now. That's because they have a different overtone structure, and that overtone structure helps you identify which instrument's being played. And by the way, the piano can play that octave higher too. Here, we'll do it this way. Do you have the sound on the piano up? Okay. Now, I'm going to have Shawnee, would you play both the E's too higher than that one? Just good. Now, now make sure it's dampened. Now I'm asking her to put the fingers down so that the dampers don't prevent those from vibrating, okay? Okay. Now pound that low E and let's see if we can hear the other notes. No, pound. No. Don't hold that low note down. We can all hear that. We want to just hear it and it'll vibrate those higher frequencies. Go ahead, one more time. Hold the other ones down so we can hear it. Yeah, that's it. Can you hear those? And I can see there's some really high ones in there too, can't you? Really high ones, those really, really high notes. And they're all basically the same. Okay? That's called the overtone structure. Anyway, what do we do next? Okay. Now, we can get even higher than that. Okay? I'm going to ask David now to play the E string with only a third of the string allowed to vibrate. Can you do it with the whole string and now touch it? Can you hear that? Yeah. Oh, fifth, by the way. Nothing to do with alcohol, those of you adults who are in the room. And we like those notes together. We'll ask Shawnee to play both of them at the same time. Shawnee, would you play the higher E and the fifth above it? Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Pretty good, not as good as all of them. Anyway, you know, I checked this out with David just before we started. David, could you do a fourth of this string now? Hey, could you play the highest E that you've got on your guitar now? That's the same note. So a fourth of the big heavy note on the lowest that he plays is the same as his highest note, so it's vibrating 4 times faster. He can even go one higher than that. Actually, he can go a lot higher than that, but we're going to stop there. Oh my goodness. Now, could you take that lowest note and divide it into a fifth? To 5 parts, so there's 5 vibrating parts. Do. Play the lowest note. Do. And now that fifth one again. Do. And now a third of the string. Oh my goodness, we just did. Would you play those 3 notes now? Do. And it's because of that overtone structure that we like to hear those. Now I'm going to ask Shawnee to do something really special now with her piano, and that is to play Bach's concerto. Anyway, would you play, again, hold the dampers down on E, let's see, you've got to get this note, E, G sharp, B, an octave higher. Yeah, now do it without making any sound, good. Now play that low E really hard. Can you hear all 3 of those tones? That's because those overtones is what makes that sound good. Anyway, I probably took way too much time, but this is why I'm thankful for sound. There's a lot more to music than just that. This is just the primer, they're just the beginnings. And you know, when Lou writes her special music, she knows this in her bones. And she adds a lot of extra stuff which makes us think that music sounds so wonderful, because it is. And with that in mind, we'd like to sing you down to your classes with a song. Okay? Here we go. Thank you so much, David.
If you will join me for the responsibility on page, or this is not page, it's number 656. in the back of the grave mill. Once more, the fields have ripened to harvest, and the fruitful earth has fulfilled the promise of spring.
The work of those who labor has been rewarded. They have sown and reaped, planted and gathered.
How rich and beautiful is the bounty gathered, the golden grain and clustered corn, the grapes of purple and green.
The crimson apples and yellow pears, and all the colors of orchard and garden, vineyard and field.
Season follows after season, after winter, the spring, after summer, the harvest-laden autumn.
From bud to blossom, from flower to fruit, from seed to bud again, the beauty of earth unfolds.
From the harvest of the soil, we are given occasion to garner a harvest of the heart and mind.
A harvest of resolve to be careful stewards of all life's gifts and opportunities.
A harvest of reverence for the wondrous power and life at work in things that grow in the soul.
A harvest of gratitude for every good which we enjoy, and a fellowship for all who are sustained by earth's beauty.
Keep your hymnals open, but turn to page 123 for the congregational hymn. Today's offering will be shared with, I should have figured out how to pronounce this, Maher, thank you, an organization that provides refuge for destitute women, children, and men from all over India and helps them improve their lives, irrespective of gender, caste, creed, or religion. Will you join me now in saying the words printed in the order of service for our offerings? We are the church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts.
many gifts from my parents, none of which I asked for, and most of which I deeply wish I could return. I received an explosive temper, a lot of internalized hatred that took me years to work through, a cocktail of mental illness that has always begged the question of nature versus nurture, and the instinct to clench or hide when someone moves too quickly or speaks too loudly. But I'm not going to talk about those gifts, so Jan, don't worry, because today we are talking about things we're grateful for and stories of gratitude. And for as many of the things that I received from my parents that I'm still dealing with in my adult life, there are some things that my parents gifted me that I am deeply, deeply grateful for. So this is a story of gratitude and a story of love to my parents. I was raised in a very small southern town, and like many southern towns at that time, it was very steeped in racism. The Grand Dragon of the KKK lived about a mile down the road from me, and up until the senior year of my high school career, the KKK marched in our Christmas parade. When I was very small, an African-American couple moved in next door to my house. I can only imagine that no one told them about the neighborhood before they moved in. The KKK obviously did not want them there and began in those both overt and subversive ways to try to get them to move. Burning crosses in yards isn't just a thing in the movies, guys. My parents had no reason to interfere in this. They had no buy-in. They didn't know this couple. But I remember very distinctly my parents bringing them into our home. My parents working with them to figure out ways of strategy and defense to be able to keep their home and their small children safe. That family still lives next door to my childhood home, and those friendships I have with those kids are some of the most important of my young life. I remember my father picking up hitchhikers all the time. I remember my father driving great distances to give people rides, to get people to their families, to help people when they were broke down on the side of the road. I remember one time he picked up a woman, and my father was asthmatic, and his allergies were set off by many things, and he brought her into our car, and she obviously was a smoker, and it was very strong, and you could tell his asthma was starting to kick in, but he was never less than gracious and kind and loving to her as he took her to her son's home. I remember one time as a child nosily going through my parents' room. Now, I mentioned my father was an asthmatic. This meant that we often would bring home pets that would end up mysteriously going somewhere else while we were looking. And I remember finding a donation slip with hundreds of dollars worth of donations to a nearby no-kill shelter. I remember my parents forgiving a man who had deeply hurt our entire family, monetarily, emotionally, probably borderline physically, forgiving him, bringing him into our home, and letting him be a part of our family again. My parents were my first example of radical love. I remember I was younger, and there's a 14-year age gap between my sisters and my oldest sister and I, and every single one of my siblings were married with kids before I was out of my teens. And several of them were divorced before I was out of my teens as well. And I remember my dad letting one of my sister's ex-husbands move into a trailer in our backyard, rent-free, letting him illegally hook up to our utilities that he didn't pay for. Not because they particularly liked him, but because he had children from a marriage that came after my sister's, and my parents couldn't stand the idea that those children would suffer because of his choices. To this day, those children consider my parents their grandparents, and the feeling is mutual. Politics was bread and butter in my home. It was a lot better than politics are today, but it was there. I remember when I was, I would say 10, I was a part of an academic competition called Odyssey of the Mind. I remember at the time already having the feminist ideals that I would carry into adulthood and getting into a fight with our adult OM supervisor because the girls had all been relegated to sew in costumes while the boys were busy making the car we were going to use in our competition. It became very heated. The OM advisor, who was a woman, told me that she could kick me off the team at any time. When my mom came and picked me up, I was in tears and sobbing, and my mom, who does not consider herself a feminist, and who really would prefer to just go along under the radar rather than make any noise. I remember her turning the car around, driving back to the home of our coach, going in and speaking for me. The next time we had practice, I was able to go help the boys with the car. I remember when I was 12 that my sister, who was 16, came home and wanted to go to a protest march in the city, and she wanted to take me. My parents said yes. And it was my first experience with a march and a protest of that kind. I remember when I was 14 or 15 in the 9th grade, and one of our teachers did not like the fact that a group of us were reading books in his class. He didn't like the type of books they are, and he didn't like that we were doing it instead of schoolwork. And my friends and I got together and organized a protest wherein the next day in class we marched in all reading our books and stuck our faces in them the entire class period. It was my first experience with civil disobedience, and it was successful, by the way, and when my parents found out, they congratulated me on exercising my rights rather than for being disobedient. When I was in my early 20s, I became upset with something that was happening in a local store, something they were selling. I don't even remember exactly what it was. But I remember when I called my family, when I talked to them about it, they immediately organized behind me, called, let their friends know, supported that social activism that I was just learning to engage in as an adult. So the point of this is that my parents taught me that we stood up for people who maybe couldn't stand up for themselves, that we had a responsibility to agitate, that we had a responsibility to exercise the rights that we had been given, that we had a responsibility to speak for those who couldn't, to act for those who couldn't. And even though they didn't understand the wording then, and they would deny the wording now, they taught me that with privilege comes responsibility. But most of all, I'm thankful that at times their actions and their words were so incredibly contradictory to each other that I became an adult with the knowledge that people are complex human beings, that we all live in shades of gray, and that no person is all good or all bad. They gave me the gift of trying to see all sides and trying to understand and trying to reach past initial impressions to what might be underneath. And for that, I will always be incredibly grateful to them.
Hi, my name is Rhett Wilkinson. Just bear with me for a second. Okay. I am grateful to have survived a suicide attempt in March, and for those who helped me get through it. So by March of this year, I had endured 8 months of no identity or sense of purpose, following a faith transition, which I think a lot of us have gone through at some point in our lives. Enduring the loss of a spouse, and daily interaction with my kids that I had enjoyed. And at least that long had been untreated for mental illness following its onset. That probably had been going for almost a year. And then I suffered my third job loss in just 4.5 months. So I had it. The afternoon of the third notice, I drove across the country. I couldn't get across the Canadian-American border, but I had already cried in agony before arriving there because I knew that I would be making an attempt on my life that night. I really thought that was it. That 26 years is all that's going to have. After all, the Detroit River, I learned, was quite available next to that Canadian-American border. It was deep, it was cold, it moved rapidly. It would do the job. So I waited a few hours until that evening, when I was a little weaker due to hunger, a little weaker due to fatigue. My joy had interrupted since the previous day. And at the point where both I and the river were a little colder. At this point, I was now on the river's edge. People have been reaching out to me in Facebook groups, and my mom had called me wondering where I was. I finally reached out on this river's edge, called my mom, posted on Facebook where I was and what I was going to do. And not even 20 seconds went by before calls and texts came in on top of each other. Some folks called multiple times. Had I wanted to reply, it would have taken me hours to adequately respond to each of the probably 24 calls and messages. Some people here were a part of that. But some of the numbers I didn't even recognize. Still, I jumped. Mid-air, I heard sirens. It was not even another 20 seconds before the Coast Guard and city police were there throwing out a life preserver. That was good because I was in that water for not even a minute. Yet just a few seconds before grabbing the item, I was struggling to stay above the water surface and began to feel numb in water that was just 1 degree above freezing, according to the Detroit Free Press. There was another factor as well. Shortly before the life preserver was thrown out, a helicopter flew overhead, shining its light on me, as the stories say that angels do. In that bitter, deep, swift water, that's exactly how I felt about the helicopter. As the police officer told the Detroit TV station, he says, who knows what would have happened if there wasn't a helicopter there that night? I think that this helicopter basically saved this person's life. As First Lieutenant Michael Shaw told the Free Press, they were just flying over the city when they heard the police call. The chopper, Trooper 2, also helps out in 3 other Michigan counties, so it could have been elsewhere during my attempt. And I'm not saying that, I'm a special person who got saved. I'm just saying I was very, very fortunate that the helicopter was right where I was. And both a month and a half and a year earlier, folks died after jumping into the Detroit River. That's a dangerous place. After a week and a half in which I stayed at a hospital and mental health facility, I was granted discharge. That's because at the end of a long, winding hall, 3 levels down, was my father, his arms outstretched, hugging me with a Rhett, son, on what happened to be my birthday. We then spent the next 4 days making a long trek back across America And even though all the religious issues that we had had for the prior year, all the disagreements we had in the long chats, I was never once scolded by him, but treated to a birthday cake and shrimp the first day of those 4 days, as we found a place to watch the University of Utah in the Pac-12 championship game of basketball, which was something that we'd always shared together. I just want this entire experience and wanted to share it today to serve as a encapsulation of my gratitude for the many people who were involved in helping preserve my life. My mother was persistent in dialoguing with police about where I was. My friends were so concerned about me, and there were dozens of Facebook messages and comments outside of the calls and texts. One was so good to give out my number so that people could reach me, which did cause for the unfamiliar numbers that were welcomed, and also caused me to hesitate in jumping, just being overwhelmed by the calls that I was receiving. And that really helped make it easier for the police to find me. The helicopter I'm grateful for just existing, and the pilots for being diligent in tracking me, modern technology that was the Maricopa chopper, which was the focus of most of the news stories, but it's good that we have those now. And then my father, for caring so much, and he was an accountant, did so in the heart attack season as well. As for me, I'm selfish. I think the suicide attempt reflected as much. But again, perhaps this chance for me to show gratitude to help me combat that, makes me also grateful for the opportunity to share today, and mostly, again, to recognize those people who made the continuation of my life possible. Thank you.
Hey, it's been a while since I've been up here. I used to be on the worship committee and up here all the time. It's nice to be here again. Life faces us with opportunities for gratitude all the time. But we're often too caught up in our day-to-day lives to stop and take note of these things. It seems only when we are faced with large life happenings that we notice all these great and small things we have to be grateful for. I've had a few of those large life happenings. They've made me much more aware of the day-to-day things that I have to be grateful for, even if at times the process of getting there has been beyond painful. When John, my husband, fell, as some of you know the story, this was one of those large life happenings. Your husband suddenly being paralyzed is something that shakes your world, turns it on its head, actually. Initially, all I could focus on was being grateful that he was alive and cognizant of everything that was going on. Then came the gratitude for his strength of will, his determination, his drive, and his passion. But as we went on and clung to each other through the trials of his surgery and the following weeks of therapy, there was so much more that I hadn't expected. Of course, it's hard to expect any of that when everything, every day in an experience like that seems so surreal. We were both overwhelmed with the outpouring of support from friends and family. One dear friend came to see John every day that he was in the hospital. Every day. He would stand at the foot of John's bed and dare him to kick him in the junk. We had financial, spiritual, and loving support from so many. It was humbling. I remember our dear friends, Rita and Roy. Roy's not with us anymore. Coming to do a beautiful healing blessing. I remember the Lou family coming to do acupuncture on John several times. No charge. It was just part of our Kung Fu family coming through for us. And of course, the amazing people at the hospital who both inspired and found inspiration in John. They were so sad when we were leaving because other patients were inspired by John too. So much love and support. I will always hold a special place of gratitude for all of the people who stood by us through that time. This part will sound strange, maybe to some of you, but I am really grateful for that happening, for going through that with John. Oh, I'm not grateful for the pain, the discomfort, and the lasting effects of his paralysis that he deals with every day. It's the change it meant for him in his life path, our life path. That's what I'm grateful for. It was far from easy, and when John came home from the spinal rehab center at the U, it's not like everything was suddenly wonderful. In fact, it was really hard when we first came home, because we didn't have all those people at the hospital and folks coming by all the time. It was just us. This took some getting used to. After such a long time at the hospital with so many people around, and John getting used to his new normal, I can't pretend to understand what that was like for him. I do remember the day that he broke down, telling me that he couldn't remember what his body used to feel like anymore. It was like he was telling me his body wasn't his anymore. And one of the most painful things, he couldn't do Kung Fu anymore, which had been a strong spiritual calling in his life. I remember a friend or relative had given us a copy of Kung Fu Panda, and we had to finally give it away because when we started watching it, it was too painful. But it was here at South Valley that John began to find that drive again. Many of you came to his recent ordination, which is an event that I have a hard time expressing my gratitude for completely. This place, this community, this faith gave John and me a place where we could invest our spiritual selves. I dove into helping with worship committee, being on the choir. John found new drive doing church work here at South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society, serving on the board of trustees through a very difficult time, some of you remember, facing many challenges and always fighting for the life of the community. He found his new passion. For me, it was a passion that was always there and just needed the right environment to flourish. Years of seminary study, a master's degree, and all his clinical pastoral studies later. Oh, and there was the UA, board certification, ordination. I had to read through a lot of papers, proofreading, lots of stuff. I find myself looking back on all that happened since John fell as a very strange, very wonderful journey that though it has been rough, I can't help but be grateful for. When it comes down to it, it's what we have been through, it's what we've become through all of this that I am most grateful for. Every experience we've traveled through together has made us stronger. We're closer and more open than we were before. If you're in partnership and one of you decides to go through clinical pastoral studies, then you will understand how that process really forces an opening of your relationship. we're simply more determined to work our way through any problems that we face now. Doesn't mean it's easy. I can still drive him crazy with my messiness. He still talks more than I want him to sometimes. But all of that seems trivial when we step back and look at what we've survived together and how much we care for each other. So I guess the thing that I am most grateful for is him, us. I feel like we can find a way through any obstacle together, even if we bump into each other a lot along the way. We have friends and family who love and support us so much, it blows me away sometimes. We have two wonderful little dogs, Felix and Memphis, who we adore. We have good homes, we have a good home, we have wonderful jobs, and all a very blessed life. So much to be grateful for. And I don't pretend that there aren't struggles, obstacles that threaten to always knock us down. But I know now that so long as we can get back up, even if we have to drag ourselves, we can make it.
Thank you, speakers, so very, very much. Would you all please now open your hymnals to page 67 and rise in body or spirit as we sing now together. Take our closing words from Denise Levertov. An awe so quiet, I don't know when it began. but gratitude had begun to sing in me. Was there some moment dividing song from no song? Where does dewfall begin? When does night fold its arms over our hearts to cherish them? When is daybreak?
For those of you who care about such things, in Roman Catholic traditions, this is the first Sunday of Advent. In recognition of that, since we're both of Catholic heritage, we've picked a song of Catholic tradition. But I have changed the words again to make it a little less sacred, a little bit more secular, and a little bit more. I'd like people to consider the political situation and the uncertainty of today environment, and to remember one thing above all: have patience, people. With the yield of the soul, he watches it in winter and spring rain. Patience, people, till our time is come. We have seen the power of great love. We know the power of compassion and of mercy. Patience, people.